next issue, or next topic, I should say, excuse me, is the Second Amendment. This one, they're fairly similar on this one. Um, they're both pro Second Amendment. There's a little tiny concern that I have, but we'll get to that in just a second. Let's talk about some of the good things here. HB 60 was the conceal carry firearms that passed in 2021. I'm sure a lot of you know about that or remember that. Governor Cox did sign that into law, which is good. And Phil Lyman was a co-sponsor of that one. So he voted yes on that one as well, and I'll show you down here. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing for both of them. One of the other ones, let's see. House Bill HB 219. Effectively, this one is a Second Amendment sanctuary state bill that Governor Cox signed into law in 2023, and it's the Senate. Phil Lyman signed as well. So those are good things. Both two very good things. One extra one that I kind of wanted to point out was Phil Lyman voted for a law, HB 258, that would have allowed firearm safety to be taught in schools. I don't think that one ended up going very far. Yeah, that one didn't go very far, but it shows you kind of where Phil's at with that, with the Second Amendment. So the small concern that I have for Cox is about red flag laws. And for those of you who don't know what red flag laws are, it's basically laws that allows a state court to order the seizure of firearms from someone that they believe could be dangerous. And it says temporary, but it's very arbitrary. It's very based on the court. So that is a concern when it comes to gun rights being infringed. So let's watch this and then we'll talk about it for a second.
Please.
Would you support a red flag law?
So what I've said before, and I will say again, in theory, I think most people support red flag laws. The idea that is to not impact someone's Second Amendment right to own a weapon, but if someone is a threat to themselves, to their families, the ability to remove those weapons for a short amount of time with a constitutional hearing of some sort, so that their constitutional rights are protected. So in theory, yes, but the details of that really matter. And the problem is, as we were starting to look at what those details are, no one could find a path to really protect those Second Amendment rights and have the type of hearing that is necessary to remove those weapons and to make sure that that process was not abused. And so I haven't seen one yet that met those very high standards, but that doesn't mean there isn't one out there. And so that's why we're having these conversations that I think are important.
So let's see.
I would just add that there are a couple areas where I think we can find.
Oh, okay. So there's some good things in there. He definitely wants to protect people's right to the Second Amendment. But the fact that he's open to pursuing that makes me a little nervous. I think overall, when it comes to the Second Amendment, I think he has good stances, but that openness, if you're somebody who's very pro Second Amendment and that our right to firearms shall not be infringed, red flag laws is very infringy. So overall, both of them have pretty good stances, with just a little concern for Governor Cox. Let's go on to the next topic. The next topic is housing, and This one, this one is a big one. From what I can see when I look into Governor Cox and Phil Lyman, I think the biggest difference, if I can kind of put it in a nutshell, is to me it feels like Cox wants to have a more government focused approach to dealing with our housing crisis, and Phil Lyman wants less government and um, pushed off to communities like counties and municipalities more. Some of here's some of my concerns. It's Utah Governor Cox gives local communities 1 year to make progress on less expensive starter homes. And I apologize, this is a secondary source, but I could not find, I couldn't find any recording or interview with Cox where he says this outright, but it has been shared multiple times in different areas. But it says right here, quoting him, Governor Spencer Cox put cities and counties in southern Utah and the rest of the state on notice Tuesday. Start approving smaller lots for starter homes, or the state may force their hand. Now, when we are talking about um, the beliefs that we had in republicanism and conservatism, this is one of those things that I would argue is not very Republican. Trying to it almost kind of seems like a threat to um, county and cities, so smaller government. Otherwise, the state government will step in if they don't do what he wants them to do. That to me is not a one of the key ideas that's anti one of the key ideas of republicanism, which is the balance of power, checks and balances. Um, he set forth well, he suggested a budget um, for his Utah First Home Starter program that he wanted 115 million of tax dollars to go towards this plan that he has to build 35,000 new starter homes by 2028. So in the next 4 years, and that plan, you can see right here. Yeah, so government investment into the private sector kind of sets off a red flag to me. So I would say that is not something that is very Republican. You may, and I'm not going to say you may agree with this, but like I said before, if we're talking about um, republicanism and conservatism, that is not the way to do it for a Republican. Now, our legislature did not approve his request for 100 million um, for his program, but they did pass a law, HB 13, and it's referring to infrastructure financing districts. This is a special district, and in short, a special district is a government area or entity that is allowed to it's allowed to levy taxes on people that are around them. So this bill, it's allowed, let's see, authorizes the creation of a type of special district. Let's see, where is it? It allows or authorizes the district to levy a property tax for the purpose of infrastructure. So, like roads, anything that has to do with infrastructure. Um, so, if you're out in Tooele, and a property tax or infrastructure financing district is created out there so that um, a company can build these smaller homes. Um, Property taxes can be increased at the request of this district in order to build these roads and other things for these areas where these starter homes are going to be put up. So overall, just to me, it feels a little bit too much like government interference. So if we go to Lyman's website on housing, um, apologize, I just stepped away for a minute. Um, so Phil has said, let's see, the economy is, no, that's not what I meant. Right. Okay, we can have affordable homes in Utah again, but it will require leadership rooted in commitment to the principles of free markets, limited regulation, and low taxes. And he says, I will stand for these principles. There was a town hall in Tooele a few weeks ago where Phil Lyman came out, and there was a conversation between one of the county councilman members in Tooele and Phil. And there was a concern that was brought up from this county councilman about um, Utah and Utah counties when it has to do with affordable housing. His concern in Tooele was that there's not a lot of water out here. So I'm going to butcher it. I would play it for you, but the conversation that I'm speaking of, I will link the town hall. I recorded that, and I'll link the town hall recording so that you guys can listen to it. But it's about a 12-minute conversation between Phil Lyman and this county councilman. But basically, the councilman is concerned about growth in Tooele County because lack of water, and there are some things in place that hurt Tooele when they don't meet these affordable housing rezoning rules. And his question was if, as governor, if Phil would try to appeal these rules or laws so that more authority can go back to counties. And Phil said absolutely. I'll quote him from the audio. He says, "Communities that want to grow should be able and allowed to grow, but uh, but growth should not be pushed into hypergrowth." And he also said we shouldn't want to grow for the sake of growing. Um, and I will tie this link of this audio so that you guys can listen to it yourself, and I'll also put the time marks on there so that you guys can hear it. Excuse me. So with that said, let's go ahead and go to the next issue or next topic.